all. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. I have a lot of information to share with you. I'm going to start with posts by Tucker Carlson on this issue with Trump and Iran, and then I'll go from there. Obviously, Tucker isn't too thrilled over what's going on. He said this yesterday. The real divide isn't between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between those who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it. Between warmongers and peacemakers. Who are the warmongers? They would include anyone who's calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in a war with Iran. On that list, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Ike Perlmutter, and Miriam Adelson. You'll notice that most of those are Zionists or Christian Zionists. At some point, they will all have to answer for this, but you should know their names now. Yes, indeed. So this article I'm going to share is Tucker sharing his thoughts on this. He blasts Trump over Iran attack. So, the U.S. is complicit in Israel's strikes on its arch-rival's nuclear sites, according to the journalist. He says, U.S. President Donald Trump's support for Israel's strikes in Iran could spark an all-out war in the Middle East, says Tucker Carlson. He warned. So we already know what happened with the IDF jets bombed nuclear and military sites across Iran, prompting Tehran to retaliate with a barrage of drones and missiles targeting Israeli cities. The escalation threatens ongoing negotiations over the Islamic Republic's nuclear program, which Trump revived earlier this year. And let's not forget, the Ayatollah Khamenei does not allow nuclear weapons. Just like, as Professor Morandi said, during the Iraq-Iran war, even though Iraq was using chemical weapons against the Russian army, the supreme leader would not allow them to obtain chemical weapons because he found that to be inhumane, obviously, and unjust. Same thing. But at this point, I don't know. They may change their mind after all this. But in any case, and what he described as possibly his final letter before all-out war, Carlson, a key Trump ally during the 2024 presidential election, argued that the U.S. was complicit in the act of war. While the American military may not have physically perpetrated the assault, years of funding and sending weapons to Israel, which Donald Trump just bragged about on Truth Social, undeniably placed the U.S. at the center of last night's events. Exactly. Washington knew these attacks would happen. They aided Israel in carrying them out. Politicians purporting to be America First can't now credibly turn around and say they had nothing to do with it. Thank you. So I already read you what his post was yesterday on warmongers. So I'm also going to share the fact that, again, President Trump has shifted, by saying immediately after the strikes, the Israeli strikes on Iran, Trump changed that so that these strikes were, in his words, quote unquote, excellent, and then blamed Iran for those strikes, saying it was because that country did not accept the deal offered by the U.S. There was no way, let me reiterate again, no way Iran would have stopped their energy program for energy, electricity, salinating, desalting the water, their isotopes for medical research, such as cancer. Again, how many times do we have to say that? They just keep repeating the same crap, okay? So I'm going to go to this article U.S. will defend itself in Israel if Iran retaliates for West Jerusalem's preemptive strikes. Now, he said this on the 13th of June. And, he continues, and then he says he had spoken with Netanyahu multiple times in recent days and knew of the planned strikes in advance, adding that there were no surprises. He stressed, however, that the U.S. was not involved militarily and expressed hope that Iran would return to negotiations. Hold on, before we go any further. This is ridiculous. And how dumb does he think everybody is? Obviously, he's dumb because they're not going to agree to this. And the fact of it being, well, you've got to get rid of all of your enrichment and your whole energy program that everybody else has in the world, or we're just going to bomb you, and then, maybe you can come back to negotiations after that. That's not negotiating. That's mafia tactics. Okay? So let me go on with more information on this. The U.S. military has helped shoot down Iranian missiles that were headed toward Israel. Two U.S. officials said on Friday. One of the officials, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said that for now, the U.S. interceptions had been carried out by ground-based systems. The official said fighter jets and warships had not been used so far. Neither official provided information on where the U.S. intercepts took place from, of course not. Just the fact that they did that, I think they need to understand. Just the fact that they did that, okay? That they helped. And again, he says, and Trump says, well, we didn't do anything militarily. Yes, we did. And even if we didn't, giving arms to a country that is going to kill other countries' people is complicit, aiding and abetting these acts of aggression and declarations of war. They haven't said it's a war, but it is a war. Okay? I'm going to go on with, I'm going to let Pepe Escobar speak for a bit here on his, he's a great geopolitical analyst. He's going to talk about this situation that's going on. And I'm going to play that now. This was, about 5 hours ago or so that this was streamed. So I'm going to play this part. Hopefully there's no commercials.
So it was all there. And it's such a pity. Okay, you can attribute to what? Lost in translation, cultural isolation, or not paying attention to signs coming from Washington. But Tehran, they should have been paying attention to all these details. And in the end, they were caught, like a deer in the headlights, completely. The only auspicious sign in all this is that apparently they woke up in less than 24 hours. After they put back together the military grid and their cyber informational military grid, and when they calculated the first stage of True Promise 3, which is now finally started, and now they're calculating the mid to long term, because this is going to be a long war, and it's going to be horrible. There's no question about that. There's some undescribable infrahuman who poses as defense minister of the genocidals, saying that Tehran will burn if this continues. So this is basically, you can interpret it in many ways, including the worst possible way. So it's no wonder that now we have members of the Majlis, the Iranian parliament, say we need a nuclear bomb. Yes, you do. Yesterday, you need a nuclear bomb. There's no other language that these genocidal maniacs understand. The only language they understand is power. So now we have undescribable toxic settlers in Tel Aviv crying and whining and posing as victims because there were hypersonic missiles landing in the center of Tel Aviv, which is something that should have happened many years ago. And it's no wonder that the Arab world, the Arab street, and the Islamic street in the lands of Islam is rejoicing. Finally, these genociders are getting a taste of their own medicine. And obviously they are crying and whining because the only thing they know, the only reaction, and threatening apocalypse. So the doubts that many of us had in the first few hours when we saw that massive Israeli attack, they were more or less dispelled after the first stage of it's in fact technically is Operation Severe Punishment, right, Nima? It's not True Promise 3. And the fact that they managed to recompose the leadership, the military leadership, very, very fast, and they're active. And of course, the air defenses seem to be active as well, at least most part. So coming back to our first big point, it's a war of regime change, which has been specified in detail, including in the paper that everybody now is discovering, but it has been available for more than 50 years. It was published in 2009, the Brookings Institution report, which passed to Persia, which many of us have been analyzing for years. I started analyzing this in 2009 when I was with Asia Times. So regime change, infiltration inside, provoke the population against the regime by, for instance, via relentless bombing of different targets all across Iran. And what you just mentioned, Nima, what this idiot, I republished on my Telegram. Let's see if I ask. I'm not going to name names because these people don't even deserve to be named. But, okay, here it is, I think. I just wrote Zionist neocons, which is the case. And it's not only one guy, it's several. They're spinning that Musk can provide the final nail in the coffin of the Iranian regime, their own terminology, by offering Starlink to the Iranian people, also their terminology, which cannot, between commas, organize a coup. This is the key phrase, organize a coup. It's all about a coup against the administration in Iran, against the Islamic Revolution, and to have a return of a puppet like the Shah before. These people cannot think about anything else. That's the problem. They are blocked in their own little vision, in their own mental block, you know. So it's all about regime change. And now that, as you mentioned correctly, there is unity among practically all strata of Iranian society after Iran is attacked directly and you have civilian Iranian victims. So, you know, the blowback against this particular plan is immediate. But Iran will suffer. This war is going to be very, very painful. But all of us in the global south who are deeply implicated in changing the system of international relations, at least we can be heartened that Iran faced with two options: total capitulation or having their country totally destroyed. They chose the third option, resistance. And we're going to resist our way. And we won't let them do whatever they want to do with us. So this, from the point of view of a lesson to the global south, this is it. You are a sovereign nation. You're attacked by a bunch of genocidals linked with the empire. You have to resist if you have the means. Iran has the means to a certain extent. And we hope that in the background, if this thing goes on, which looks like it's going to go on, Russia and China will step in.
Okay. Really good key points there from Pepe. Regarding this is about regime change. Yeah, it's been about regime change for 40 years, as he mentioned also. you didn't hear the first part, but there was the Israeli Mossad did cyber attacks, basically hacked the Iranian air defense systems and all that, and their intel and everything. They did that before their strikes, so that Iran could not fight back, could not use their defense mechanisms. But he did say it only took them it took them 8 hours, the people working in the tech and all that, to get that back up for the Iranians. And then this Starlink thing, trying to use Musk's Starlink so they could, organize a coup. We can only hope that Musk does not okay this. Don't know. Considering the arguments with him and Trump and how he's trying to make up for going overboard on President Trump, I don't know. But in any case, let's keep that in mind. His last words that Pepe Escobar said, we could only hope that Russia and China will back up Iran if something happens, and we don't know how long this is going to go on. Well, I'm going to give you a couple other articles here. First, I'm going to give you the UN, what the Russian Federation says. It said yesterday, I believe it was, defending Iran.
We would like to express our condolences to the leadership and the people of the Islamic Republic of Iran, having to do with the numerous victims, including amongst civilians, which were the result of Israeli action. In front of our eyes, because of Israeli action, what is happening is a very dangerous escalation in the Middle East region, and this is something that requires an immediate attention from this council. We are grateful to the Guyana presidency for convening this meeting of ours so expeditiously. It's symptomatic that initially the council was to consider today, at this very time, the humanitarian consequences of inhumane actions by Israel against the people in the Gaza Strip. Instead of that, we are here having to discuss a new, most dangerous and irresponsible adventure by West Jerusalem in the region, but this time it is also pushing the region to a large-scale nuclear catastrophe. In the early hours of the 13th of June, Israel delivered a number of extensive strikes against the territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Peaceful sleeping cities were struck, civilian infrastructure, and peaceful nuclear installations under IAEA safeguards. We heard from the briefers today that there have been victims amongst civilians. This completely unprovoked attack, no matter what Israel says to the contrary, is a gross violation of the UN Charter and international law. One is left with the impression that the leadership of Israel is convinced that they have a completely free hand in the region, and they probably think that Israel can flout any legal norms and replace all international bodies, including the Security Council and IAEA. The Russian Federation strongly condemns this action by West Jerusalem.
Okay, so you can follow the rest there at the WLA channel, apparently. I just wanted you to get the Russian Federation's view on what happened, and that they're standing by Iran, which, as Pepe hopes, that Russia will do so. And then I'm going to show you this article quickly. This was on the 13th. So Putin holds phone conversations with the Israeli Prime Minister and Iranian President. He condemned the Israeli attack and extended his condolences to Iran. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and give you a couple of the quotes here. The Russian president expressed his condolences to the leadership and people of the Islamic Republic of Iran in connection with the numerous human casualties, including civilians, resulting from the Israeli strikes. Russia condemns Israel's actions, which violate the UN Charter and international law, Putin stressed according to the statement. At the same time, the Russian leader expressed a readiness to mediate and to continue to contribute to the de-escalation of the conflict between Iran and Israel. He underscored the importance of returning to the negotiation process and resolving all issues related to the Iranian nuclear program exclusively through political and diplomatic means. The ongoing escalation is fraught with the most disastrous consequences for the entire region. Yes, and of course they have interest there because of BRICS. So, and he also spoke, now, President Putin spoke with President Trump this morning. Details were to follow. I haven't heard yet quite what was said, but when it comes up, I will be sure to report to you about that. Now, with all that information and what Pepe said and all that, and I had that question last night. Oh, I don't know how long this Iran-Israel war is going to go on. I'm going to start with an Orthodox Christian prophecy was fulfilled a day or two ago when the Israelis struck the Iranian nuclear, or tried to, the Iranian nuclear program. Okay? That has been fulfilled. Now, I had that question, well, how long, I couldn't remember. And so if we go back and remember the prophecy of Elder Joseph of Fadapuri, he does say something along this. Now, we can't say exactly how long, okay? The saints aren't going to give us that, but they will tell us what happens with... So the second phase is the attack by America and Israel against Iran. It's imminent. It's interesting because we weren't sure if America was going to be involved. And well, it is, and there's evidence now of that. So, of course, the elder was right on that as well. Now we have this thing where it says in phase 3. So however long this phase is going on, I don't know. I can't give you, he doesn't tell you, and most prophecies don't give you times because things can change through repentance, which obviously that hasn't been happening, but this is going on, so it's in there. It's not going to go away. The war is here. But there's that portion, okay? But in phase 3, it says, then the Russians will go down south to help their Arab allies, especially the Iranians, who will be attacked by the Americans. So the Americans are going to get involved, more than what they are now. The Americans will have captured the coastal zone of Iran after a fierce struggle, but they will not be able to advance inside the country because of the great resistance they will receive. And then the Russians will sweep across Persia and destroy the American forces in the east. Then he will invade Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Kuwait, and finally Israel. Probably just means they're going to go through there, and I don't know what they're going to do. But the point is, there it is. So Pepe's question or hope it will be answered through these prophecies. Russia will go down and do this. So Iran will not be left hanging. Russia will come and assist. Okay? So, all important information to share today. I will probably be back later for something else because there's constantly things going on. So, thanks so much for watching. Please follow my channel on Rumble. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube. And like my videos if you like them. Comment. Share your thoughts on all of this, whatever you think. And I really appreciate your support. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's a beautiful Saturday here. And I'll leave it there until...